I'm going to seal the base. Make sure everything's clean. I have my wrists together, thumbs going over the top, and push down and forward, making sure that you're using this part and this part of your hand. If it's hot or sticky, add more water, okay, until it's a slightly nicer blob. Okay, we're not going to worry about any little wobbles or anything going on here. We'll take off any excess gobbledygook down here that's causing any sort of problems. Then we're going to take our left hand, so we're going to work on centering now. So we didn't need to take that long to get the overall piece centered. We're going to do our fancy stuff now. So this line, if you draw this line on your arm and you have it pointed directly towards the center, we should be able to push forward and it'll go in. Now I'm not using this part of my hand at all. I'm just using that to keep it so that it doesn't wiggle back and forth, okay? Number one problem that I see is things go over here and it's no good. So if you're having wiggly problems, make sure that this is pointed directly in towards the center. Then we're gonna take this hand right over on the corner here on this edge. We're gonna push down. And I wanna keep my hands connected. So as I push down, I'm also pushing forward. And if you have any wobbling or resistance, make sure that you're pushing on the back of your elbow as you're pushing forward with your body weight. So it's not that my arm is pushing away from my body, but that my body is pushing my arm forward. This one's gonna push down. And you wanna make sure that you come off nice and slow. Because one of the things that you might be able to see is as I'm pushing forward, even though it's not really wiggling around that much, it's not actually like straight up and down. And if I take my hands off quickly, I'm gonna end up with that wobble. So if you're feeling everything be nice and steady like this, and you're coming off too quick, that's gonna be part of your problem. So you wanna come off nice and slow. Easy on, easy off. Okay, once we get that part, now we're going to work on actually making our hole. So we're going to push down. I have my sponge in my hand. I'm going to push down using my thumb. This is just lightly touching the outside. And then I'm going to start to pull back. Straight back towards me. If you end up with like a weird little divot there, that's because you actually pushed down and then back, as opposed to just pulling straight back towards you. Okay. Now we can take our needle tool and we can poke that in. We're going to test our thickness. So we should have about a finger's thickness there, and that's looking good. Okay, my hole is nice and open now. And now we're going to bring this back in. So it's my wrists are together. I'm going to push forward. And if I keep my thumb over the center there, that can really help keep everything in line, especially if it got a little bit off when we're putting the hole in there. Make sure that you use plenty of water when you're putting the hole in. Otherwise, we don't need that much, just enough so it's not hot or sticky. Okay, so now we're going to work on lifting. And I think lifting is one of the trickier bits. So we have the second half of our 10 minutes to work on this, okay? So we have our inside hand. These are the fingers that are actually touching. I'm not touching back here at all, just right here at that 4 o'clock point. And then my outside hand is going to go directly into that same spot. So they should line up, okay? So this hand is gonna go in, and I'm using the sponge, but I'm making sure that I'm only using, like, my fingers are still touching. The sponge itself is also touching. And I'm gonna push in, and you should be able to see a nice ridge or feel that nice ridge on the outside, and then start to lift up. It is very important that you keep this outside hand really steady, okay? And I'm having those fingers, these fingers are pointed directly into the center, just like when we were doing our centering, and that was pointed directly into the center. You're gonna have the most control when you are pointed into the center. So I don't wanna see this, or some sort of weird like combo thing. That's not gonna help you lift anything. So we're gonna go back down to the bottom. I'm gonna push in with my outside hand, pushing it against my inside hand. I'm gonna come up. Okay. And we can go back down. I can bring everything back in. Back on the inside, let's feel how we're doing. Okay. So if you're lifting and nothing's happening, it's because you actually need to be a little bit more forceful. Now, if you are lifting and you're ending up with a donut in your hand, then that could be a problem. Okay, so right now I'm gonna lift this up and push it against my rib as I'm going up to even out my walls. And you can see where, as I'm pushing in, I'm pushing this hand into this rib. So I'm not letting this rib go out. So I'll go back down. And lift back up. Okay, so let's do this lift one more time. So I'm grabbing that clay down at the bottom. I wanted to make it a little bit wider, so I actually pushed a little bit more with my inside hand. If you were ending up with a bowl, that means you have way too much pressure on your inside hand, which is really almost nothing. Okay, now if you're running into problems and you're like, and then this happens. Oh no. So what happened here is that I actually pushed too hard. I kept bringing my fingers in until there was no more space in between my fingers, and so hence there's no more wall. Okay, but we're not going to panic. We're going to use our needle tool leveled with the wheel head, my finger on the inside. I'm going to slowly guide this in until it touches my finger and then lift up. Okay, and then we'll go back down and I'll lift one more time. Okay, over at the top, I'm using my fingers on either side, and then I'm going to bring that finger down. That's to set my rim. Now I'm going to clean up the inside of this. And lift again. All right, we're done with that bit. Nice and tight. Pull in towards me.